You know that feeling when you've been around people for a while and nothing bad even happened, but somehow you leave feeling heavier than when you arrived? Not sad, not upset, just drained. And it's confusing because on the surface, everything looked normal. You laughed at the right moments. You responded when spoken to. You showed up the way you were supposed to. But underneath that, something in you was quietly working the entire time. And by the end of it, you feel like you've been running on empty. Most people don't really notice this pattern, or if they do, they label it quickly. They call it being too quiet or antisocial, or assume you just don't like people. Sometimes they frame it as a personality flaw, like you're lacking something others seem to have naturally. But that interpretation misses something important, because this isn't really about disliking people, and it's not about being bad at socializing. It's about something much deeper that most people were never taught to recognize. People who feel drained around others aren't simply reacting to the presence of people. They're reacting to what their mind and body are doing during those interactions. There's more going on here than people realize. When you're around others, your brain isn't just listening to words, it's constantly scanning, picking up tone, facial expressions, micro reactions. It's tracking shifts in energy, noticing subtle changes in mood, predicting what might happen next. This process is called social monitoring, and for some people, it runs much more intensely. Neuroscience research shows that certain individuals have higher sensitivity in areas of the brain linked to emotional awareness and threat detection, like the amygdala and parts of the prefrontal cortex. That doesn't mean something is wrong. It just means your system is more responsive. So, while someone else might experience a conversation at face value, your mind is processing layers underneath it. You're not just hearing what's said, you're noticing what's not said. You're adjusting your responses in real time. You're managing impressions. You're trying to keep things smooth, balanced, comfortable, and all of that takes energy. A lot of it. It's similar to having multiple tabs open in your brain at once, all running quietly in the background. You might not consciously think about each one, but your system is working overtime to keep everything aligned. And over time, that effort adds up. So, when you leave, the exhaustion isn't random. It's the result of sustained mental and emotional processing that most people never see. But this doesn't just come from nowhere. For a lot of people, this pattern has roots. It often develops in environments where being aware of others wasn't optional, it was necessary. Maybe you grew up around unpredictable reactions, where reading the room helped you avoid conflict, where you learned, without being told directly, that it was safer to notice everything. Or maybe you were the one who naturally tuned into other people's emotions, the one who adjusted, who kept things calm, who filled in the gaps when something felt off. Over time, your nervous system adapts to that role. It becomes efficient at it. What started as a way to stay safe or connected becomes a default setting. So now, even in normal, low-stakes situations, your system is still running that same pattern, still scanning, still adjusting, still carrying more than what's visible. And again, this isn't a flaw. It's a learned response that made sense at some point. But here's where it gets misunderstood, because from the outside, people only see the outcome. They see someone who gets quiet after a while, someone who leaves early, someone who seems distant or tired. They don't see the internal activity that led there, so they assume it's disinterest, or lack of effort, or something that needs to be fixed. But the truth is there's no single correct way to experience people. Some nervous systems thrive on constant interaction. Others need space to regulate. Neither is better. Neither is more normal. They're just different ways of processing the same world. And once you understand that, something shifts. Because instead of asking, why can't I handle this like everyone else? You start asking a different question. What is my system actually doing? And what does it need? And that question opens up something deeper. Because here's the part most people don't talk about. The same sensitivity that drains you is also what allows you to notice things others miss. You pick up on nuance. You sense shifts in energy before they're obvious. You understand people in ways that aren't always verbal. There's a quiet depth in that. But there's also a trade-off. Because being open to that level of awareness means you're also more affected by it. It's like having your volume turned up higher than average. You hear more, but it also gets overwhelming faster. So the goal isn't to shut that part of you down. And it's not to force yourself into environments that constantly exhaust you. It's about understanding the balance, recognizing when your system is engaged, and giving it space to reset. Because the exhaustion you feel isn't weakness, it's feedback. It's your mind and body telling you how much it's been carrying. And once you start seeing it that way, the experience changes. You stop judging it. You stop trying to override it. And you start working with it instead. You begin to notice the difference between being present and being overextended, between connection and depletion. And that awareness creates something subtle but important: choice. Not the kind that forces you to become someone else, but the kind that lets you move through the world in a way that actually fits you, because you were never broken for feeling this way. You were just operating with a system that processes more than most. And once you understand that, the exhaustion starts to make sense. If this felt familiar, there's a good chance there are other patterns in your life that follow the same quiet logic. Ones that don't look obvious on the surface, but feel deeply personal when you notice them. If this kind of content speaks to you, you already know what to do.